All right, welcome back into another episode of the Reckoning Sports Tourism Podcast. We're going international a little bit today. A little bit of international and college town flair. I like this. We're going to speak with Paul Regault from DØDs Diving. DØDs, I learned, is Norwegian for death. So we're talking death diving.
That's what it's called?
That's what it's called. And it looks pretty scary, I can't lie.
Let me tell you what,
I don't know if I
didn't
have the
even
balls
like
for
going
it.
up in a high dive. Yet alone jumping off cliffs and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I love airplanes. I love them. I'm fascinated by aviation. The people, to me, that jump out of airplanes, skydiving, why would I leave a perfectly good airplane? So the people that are also leaving a perfectly good cliff to go into an unknown body of water, they've got more gall than I do. So we're looking forward to hearing from Paul about DØDs death diving and where they're at internationally and here domestically in the United States.
And he's there in
well.
Norway, so
Yep.
Congratulations, Norway.
Yep.
The Olympics, they won.
Yeah. So you would think it's their hometown sport.
Yeah, they better.
They better. The Canadians couldn't. They couldn't clinch it in their sport. You know, USA took that one. But yes, congrats to the Norwegians. And then also joining us, Mike Watting with Fresh Junkie Racing. They run a circuit of half marathons, 5Ks, fun runs, all across the American Southeast. They're based out of Louisiana. You will pick up on that very quickly listening to Mike chat. Very much a New Orleans drawl in his voice, and learned a lot about his industry as well, and looking forward to you guys learning a little bit about the racing industry too.
And right now they're heavily into an event down at Auburn.
Yep. They're down in Auburn, and then the Tuscaloosa half marathon coming up in a few weeks on March 28th. So very timely to have him hop on our episode as well. So as always, just one more shout out before we get going and get into these interviews. Bo Hicks, Druid City Brewing Company.
Oh man, he's the best.
He is the best. His chili is the best. It truly won. It legitimately won the first place trophy in last year's chili cook-off in Tuscaloosa. He's proudly got his trophy on display. We tried some of it today, a little bit earlier. Outstanding. I had it on some nachos.
It's as good as the Brunswick stew that we had last time, and then his barbecue's outstanding.
I can't say I've had a bad thing to eat or drink here at Druid City. So huge thanks to Bo for letting us use the Moon Room, which is a really cool spot off to the side that's available for rent through Bo. We really enjoy being able to take advantage of this space and host our podcast here. So just want to give a huge thanks to Bo, who, again, true Southern gentleman, one of one, outstanding ambassador for the Tuscaloosa community. Absolutely,
and I'd be remiss if I didn't say thanks to you. You always do a great job holding the fort down and keeping this show rolling, and I appreciate you, my friend.
All I got to do is yank you off that soapbox from time to time. Other than that, I just sit back and listen to you regale us with stories. But I appreciate that, and let's get into some DØDs death diving and Fresh Junkie Racing. All right, we're joined now by Mike Watney with Fresh Junkie Racing. Mike, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
And I hear tell that you are down in Auburn, Alabama, currently?
I am currently here in Auburn for the 5th anniversary of the War Eagle Run Fest.
It's the 5th anniversary of the War Eagle Run Fest. And you guys end the race there on, what, the 50-yard line at Jordan-Hare?
We sure do. Yeah. And so this year's a little bit of a different event. We grew the event substantially and had to split it into 2 days. And so the 5K and the Kids Mile are on Saturday, and packet pickup's actually going on here in the hotel downstairs right now. And the half marathon's on Sunday morning. So last year we had 4,100 runners. This year we capped out, sold out all the distances at over 6,400 runners.
Wow, that's awesome.
Tell me, how many SEC cities are you in?
So we're in Auburn, we're in Baton Rouge, we're in Tuscaloosa, but not on the 50-yard line there. And we have a potential partnership that we are moving forward on in Arkansas with Run Pig Suey.
Okay. And the name of the event in Tuscaloosa is?
The Visit Tuscaloosa Half Marathon.
And you guys been here, for a little while, haven't you?
It's been a long time, yeah. And Fresh Junkie Racing played a key part in it for quite a few years in the early years of the formation of that event. and then took over the event in its entirety number of years ago. And outside of 2020, when it was the first event in our entire portfolio that was impacted by the COVID shutdown, we've been running strong, and every year has been growing. It's great to see such substantial growth in the event. This year, we are 27% up as of right now.
So other than SEC cities, how many other places do you go?
So Fresh Junkie Racing produces events in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia. We did a partnership with a group in Nashville last year for the Nashville Half Marathon. And as I said, Arkansas is on the docket as a very strong potential for 2027. And then we always play a key role at the New York City Marathon, world's largest marathon.
All right, real quick, tell us a little bit about that. I was getting ready to start talking about the accent and whatnot. You guys are based out of what, Baton Rouge, New Orleans?
Yeah, so I live just outside of New Orleans, but most of the team lives in Baton Rouge, so we have a few remote employees in various parts of the country. But yeah, so we were reached out to by Ted Metellus, who's the race director of the New York City Marathon, who is a longtime friend of mine, going all the way back to the very beginning of our Fresh Junkie Racing days. Actually predates our Fresh Junkie Racing days. And he came to me and said, "Hey, I'm now the race director. Would you like to come work the event? We were always bringing on contractors." And I said, "Ted, anything for you." And he said, "Well, what about the rest of the team?" I said, "Oh, okay, hold on. That's a little bit bigger of a conversation." And so first year we ended up bringing about 12 members of the team up to New York to help with transportation and logistics. And then last year we took over all of the mile markers, which you think 26 miles, 26 mile markers. No, there's about 96 mile markers that go on a course, because they do them on both sides of the course, and they have 3 different start lines. So 59,000 people, they don't start them all at the same spot. They merge up at about mile 11. So for a mile 6 or a 10K, because they do the kilometers also, you've got, multiple mile markers, 3 sets, 2 sets as you move a little closer to the merge, until it gets to about a mile 12, where it's down to just a single mile 12. And then, as I said, 5K, 10K, 15K, all the way through. So it's a heavy lift. And then the other half of our team helps out with transportation, getting everybody onto the shuttles or getting them onto the ferries, getting them out there to the starting line. It's a big deal. It's a lot of fun.
When we did the half marathon here, I learned so much. And for you guys to get on board with this and take care of the inner workings between, the city, the county, the police, sponsors, the runners, closing down streets, it's a major production. As you were talking, I got thinking, I've been since 2007 as sports ETA, and I'm just getting ready for the first time to actually do a session.
Oh, really? Okay.
A music festival that we did here in Tuscaloosa. Buddy of mine is going to actually do the presentation. Little did I know that he wanted me to be part of it. I found out just the other day. But it got me thinking, have you guys actually done anything at ETA where you do sessions? Because if you haven't, you should. The inner workings of doing a half marathon is massive.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys are outstanding in what you do. Have you ever done one?
We haven't done it at Sports ETA. I have presented at Running USA, which is the endurance industry conference. I sat on a panel discussion about use of artificial intelligence in marketing, being the marketing creative director for Fresh Junkie Racing. But I am attending Sports ETA Symposium this year, and would always be open and willing to be more engaged, be more involved, do a presentation. I spoke just this past week with the Public Relations Association of Louisiana at their Lunch and Learn Monday morning. I'm teaching at Auburn in their live events class. So I love presenting and being the guy on the microphone. I have not met a microphone that I'm afraid of.
Okay.
That's a good skill to have, public speaking. You're speaking my language now a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a little bit about Fresh Junkie itself. What's in that name? Where did that name come about?
So Patrick Fellows, one of my business partners, who is our experiential director, used to be in the healthy eating and restaurant business. And so he had many, many moons ago, he had a company, had a shop called Fresh Salads and Wraps. And he was an athlete. Did triathlons, ran marathons, and wanted to bridge that gap and provide a healthy eating alternative for Baton Rouge. Well, Fresh was such a common name, and so many other salad shops popped up and needed some more brand differentiation. And so put pencil to paper and, came up with the addicted to fresh. And that's where the junkie part came in. And so it became Fresh Junkie Salads and Wraps. And that had been in business for a number of years. And then he and another one of my partners, Jonathan Juba, acquired a triathlon in, I think, 2014, if memory serves correct. Just a small triathlon in central Louisiana. And so they said, well, we've already got this strong brand with the leaf that incorporates the F and the J and the salad shop. Let's just do a brand extension. And it became Fresh Junkie Racing. So they had Fresh Junkie Salads and Wraps, Fresh Junkie Racing. And it was all based on the same core narrative of eat healthy, live healthy, race hard. And so that happened. And then over the years, the event business just exploded, took off. And, the restaurant business is a very challenging business to be on top of. And when you're selling something that the market isn't necessarily demanding, it becomes even more challenging. And God bless fellow LSU grad Todd Graves, who's doing extremely well with Raising Cane's. He's the most profitable, the wealthiest person in Louisiana. But that wasn't what Pat had offered, and so he decided to shut it down, close down the restaurant, and put all of his energy into creating experiences with Fresh Junkie Racing. And so then he became went from part-time Fresh Junkie Racing to full-time Fresh Junkie Racing. And his vision has really helped to, change our events and improve our events substantially. Because as Don said, there is a tremendous amount of back-end work that goes into organizing a marathon, a half marathon, et cetera. But it's more than just the cones, the barricades, and the 13.1 miles of a half marathon. It's the making sure that there's an experience touch point from the very start of the very first email all the way to the finish line, and then beyond the finish line, and creating a festival atmosphere. He's done an exceptional job of having that vision to be able to create those types of things.
Tell us a little bit about the festival component, because I'm going to tell you what, I really am I'm a jam band guy. That's my music. I used to be a blue-eyed soul boy, Marvin Gaye and Al Green and that kind of music, but I transitioned back into jam band. You guys have really, really good music at your events. It's always hopped up, Tell us a little bit about that. How did that happen, and where is it today?
I got to give credit to Pat again, because Pat is also a musician. He played in a band when he was at LSU. He's constantly kept the hobby up, playing guitar, and he's got a band now that plays, every couple of months. And so he knows he's got a good ear for it, and really knows what kind of music is going to resonate with a post-race party and a post-race crowd. And so he's done a really great job of picking the right band for the atmosphere. Whether it's the event that we do in Mandeville, which is a very laid back lakeside type of environment at the North Shore Half Marathon, and has a lot of bluesy influence to it, to something that has a little bit more, country and twang, boot kicking type of music that really is well received. And then he looks at our demographics, and look, let's face it. About 5 years ago, we were all sitting around just after the pandemic, and we were attending these webinars and Zoom calls of how do we get Gen Z, how do we get millennials to the starting line, because it was abysmal. There was very few that had become runners, and in 3 years, that's now one of our largest contingents. I mean, this weekend at the War Eagle Run Fest, the 18 to 29-year-old age group is about 33% of the entire field, which is phenomenal. Which it's crazy that just a few years ago we were sitting around on, Zoom calls trying to figure out how do we get them there, and Gen Z coming out of the pandemic really was, they were craving connection. They wanted connection. They wanted to have real experiences. They didn't want to have a virtual prom. They didn't want to have, a Zoom football game that they were watching. They wanted real in-person experiences, just like normal kids going through high school. And now all those normal kids that didn't have their prom and didn't have their homecoming dance are now in college and and getting out into the workforce, and they all want real in-person connection experiences. And so run clubs have seen a simply stratospheric explosion, like 4,800%. And it's because they've made running social. And so you add in a social component of running with run clubs, and you add in a festive post-race party where there's something to eat, something to drink, a great band, and you've got yourself a pretty strong mix to attract the runners.
This is a sports tourism show, and I know that you're going to be at ETA. How many of the shows do you typically do a year? Do you only have to do one for getting new clients, or do you do a couple shows? How's that work?
ETA has been the only one that I've been to so far. I have looked at teams, and they've tried to, get us out there.
Yeah.
The challenge that we face is our calendar is relatively busy, and then you add in stuff like Mardi Gras that we just went through down in New Orleans, and you throw in maybe I'll actually have a social life and I'll get to attend an LSU Alabama game or an LSU Auburn game when they come to Baton Rouge, or being a dad, those types of things, and all of a sudden the weekends are gone. And so picking and choosing the right balance. And the other thing is trying to grow our event company. We're trying to do it very strategically. So we're trying to grow the events themselves, because pour more effort into the things you're already doing, which is what has allowed us to take the War Eagle Run Fest from 4,100 runners to 6,400 runners. That's a phenomenal growth that we're very proud of. But if we were trying to add that extra 2,000 to 2,500 runners at a new event,
Yeah.
you've got all of the startup costs, all of the initial branding, all of the initial permitting, whereas we just split this event into 2 days, and now it gave us the ability to scale and grow.
And that's part of doing a session right there alone. It is very complicated. Matter of fact, our next guest coming on is the COO of the HBCU Athletic Conference. He basically goes into the cities and he runs the championships, whether it's a 2-day event for cross country or a 7-day event for basketball. And I'll tell you what, I'm a salesman, I'm a former coach, I recruit and all that. He used to be a coach. He was also at the NCAA. But I'm going to tell you what, his job is very difficult. It's what you just talked about. It's what I was talking about earlier with the half marathon in Tuscaloosa. All the parts to it. And for what you just said, starting a new one, it's labor intensive.
Yeah.
But I would imagine with the bandwidth that you guys have right now, and you'll be selective on who you add and those cities that you add, you're not going to those conventions for nothing. You're looking to grow Fresh Junkie.
And along those lines, sorry, Mike, but I'll give you a chance here on the show. You talked a little bit about your geographic footprint, the Southeast, and obviously you're big in college towns. That's a target area for you. What are you looking for in a destination, in a DMO, in a city, to host and bring one of your events there?
We've really been able to distill that down to, beyond the core requirements that we would, normally discuss with a DMO, as far as room nights and partnerships that help with the facilities or services or police or those types of things. We're looking for a location, and we're looking for a destination that has a hook, or at least has a story that we can build. Because do we have the skills? Do we have the barricades and the trailers and the equipment to put on a half marathon in the middle of nowhere? Absolutely. But in order to build something truly successful that a DMO can then hang their hat on and say, man, this generated so much economic impact. It generated so many media hits and so much brand awareness and so many room nights, which is, kind of a stalwart of sports tourism. Being able to have an event that has a hook and has a brand narrative that says, this is why you want to run this event, it makes for a little bit easier of a selection process. one of the events that we have very strong success and partnership with is down in Mobile with Visit Mobile and Mobile Sports Authority. And we do the Battleship 12K down there. It's always around Veterans Day weekend. I founded that event in 2015. My dad is a Purple Heart veteran from Vietnam, 20 plus years of military experience. And I wanted to do something to say thank you to our military community. And so it is a patriotic red, white, and blue, over the top, a giant thank you to our military community. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you the story right now. It just makes it easy to have that hook of this is why you want to participate in this event because people get on board with your story. It's not just signing up for a race. They're signing up for being a part of something bigger. The stories like the LSU Tiger 10K and the Auburn War Eagle Run Fest, those have their stories built in because you have a giant fan base that just wants to be a part of something that they love. And so having a location, having a new destination that has some sort of a hook, whether it's a beach town or a college town, it has a story that I can then build onto and give people from around the country a reason to come run with us and come explore that city.
Couple things. One, tell my buddy Juba I said hello.
I will.
The same thing for Anthony Turling. I'm sure he's doing a great job taking care of you guys there in Auburn.
Yep, saw him last night.
Fresh Junkie and Nuke, we just had some guests talking. Brand new hydration product on the market. I was bragging about you to them. Don't be surprised if they reach out to you.
Okay.
The company is called Nuke Hydration. They're out of Mississippi. And last but not least, can't wait to see you in Vegas for ETA. And we need to get you up on stage to go ahead and do a session.
I'd be happy to. I love teaching. I love being able to share those stories. And that PR, the public relations launch I did on Tuesday, definitely lit that fire to try and find more of those opportunities because it just gives me the opportunity to elevate our brand awareness of who Fresh Junkie is and what we do, and that we're more than just a race production company, that we are a turnkey sports marketing, sports tourism shop that wants to drive sports tourism in various markets around the country.
The only other thing is, when are you guys going to finish in Bryant-Denny Stadium?
What's that?
So Don wants to know when you guys are going to get the green light to finish at the 50-yard line here in Bryant-Denny.
We're working on it. We've been working on it for a long time, and we keep working on it. But we know that if that race finished on the 50-yard line of Bryant-Denny Stadium, that we would have to buckle our chin straps because that race would absolutely explode. Because, being an LSU grad and being here in Auburn, I understand that it runs deep. But my brother went to University of Alabama. He was on baseball broadcaster there, and I know that is a passionate fan base. And so, if we could make that happen, it would be amazing.
Well, let me just say this: if pickleball can happen in Tuscaloosa, and it took a long, long time, you know what? I think you guys in Bryant-Denny could happen. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you in Vegas. And good luck in Auburn.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity, guys. It's great talking to y'all.
All right, well, we're back here on the Reckoning Sports Tourism Podcast with Paul Rigaud joining us from Norway. Don, we decided to take the show international. Virtually.
Well, you know what? In respect for them winning the Olympics, I mean, this makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. The kings of the Winter Olympics. Very nice. Paul, thanks for hopping on with us. We're going to talk about your organization, DØDs Diving. I did a little bit of research on the sport itself, and have to say it sounds pretty intense anytime you have a sport with the name death in it. So it sounds pretty intense. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about death diving?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a pleasure being here. And Don, thank you for recognizing the serenity of Norway with the 20 gold medals, that little country with 5 million people. Oh my God. But that put aside, DØDs diving, which means death in Norwegian, we did have to use the name DØDs so people wouldn't ask too many questions. But it's actually not about the hard landing. So it's In short, it's the natural evolution of traditional diving. You just put freestyle tricks in the air and you have this unique landing that gives you a massive splash. So it's highly entertaining to watch, but you use the existing infrastructure that is already there. So you use diving towers from community pools, aquatic centers, or you can do it from natural environments like bridges or cliffs or boats or whatever. So it started as a way of peacocking, picking up the girls at the local community pool. And then the harder the slam, the more beautiful the girl you got. That's the Norwegian Viking style, the story behind the sport. And then little by little, it kind of got reborn with a new generation, and everything was taped on small screens. So things started to go viral, and long story short, we became the platform for Diving 2.0. So that's the DØDs Diving League.
Wow. And tell me a little bit about the cliff part of it, or jumping off a bridge, and then after you tell us a little bit about that, maybe the differences, and talk about the crowds that you get at these places. And then didn't you tell me that you guys had been up in Chattanooga? Uh,
Yeah.
I love Chattanooga. I almost took a job up there one time, and loved the vibe of that city. In Tuscaloosa, we did the Chamber of Commerce benchmarking trips to different cities similar to Tuscaloosa, Northport. And one of the trips was to Chattanooga. And we got
Love Chattanooga.
oh
Love
my
that
gosh.
city.
So tell us a little bit about those two, if you would.
Yeah, so in short, the sport started at the local 10-meter platform, but little by little, you had this kind of daredevilism, challenging your friends, going to different spots, exploring the world. And I think that's kind of an important part of the DNA that, okay, you have a competition structure that's kind of a platform with an arena around you, but put that on the side. And when you do it with your friends, it's about freedom. It's about exploring. It's about challenging yourself. It's about traveling around the world and claiming cliffs. And I think that's maybe one of the most beautiful things about it. And you can only imagine the content flying from these trips. You have the most insane backdrops in the world, and everything is taped on slow-mo. You have multiple angles. Everything is GoPro ready. So it's like eye candy from day one.
Talk a little bit about Chattanooga. When were you there? Are you going back? And then talk to us a little bit about, the places in the United States that you're bringing this in the next year or this
Yeah,
year.
so exactly. So where we first met, Don, that was actually our first sports conference, and it took us a couple of years to understand how to build the business of the league. But we understood quickly that we had to transition to a host city model, meaning that we built the event around cities that wanted to have the event and that could support it financially as well. And Chattanooga was one of those cities. So it's often tempting to try to go for the big cities, New York, Paris, LA, etc. But I think that kind of our secret sauce are the smaller places around the US where you kind of have that kind of daredevilism DNA in the city. You like that kind of action sport. And Chattanooga is such a city. You have a beautiful river. It's very kind of action sports driven. I love the cultural scene there, all the food areas and everything. And that was just a perfect match. So the first year we did it in Chattanooga was in collaboration with Riverfest, which is a music festival they do by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pier. So we built a scaffolding tower from the pier, and then you had like 3 to 5,000 people watching the competition. That was the first year, and now little by little, it's a standalone event, kind of attracting a lot of people. So we're trying to build each stop unique, and
Yeah.
then tell the story on everything that we broadcast. So just as we talked about earlier, this is going to be our debut season on ESPN. So everything is going live on ESPN2 this year. And that's going to be a big one for us.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. What event specifically is it going to be on ESPN2, and where is that going to be at?
Yeah, so our product is actually social media first. So we're actually transitioning from digital to linear, which is kind of strange in these times. But it kind of makes sense for us that if you want to watch the live competition, you drive that to a more streaming platform or TV channel. And in the US, ESPN is the holy grail. So after a couple of phone calls and some previous collaboration, we said, let's go. So we're very excited about that collaboration. But I must add that we average 20 million views organically per event in the DØDs Diving League. So we are still very true to the DNA of the sport, which is digital and digitally native.
That's wild.
So right now, do you have a schedule for 2026 where you guys know you're going to be here in the States?
Yeah, so our goal, and we see this, the growth is by far the biggest in the US. So we're transitioning from a European heavy kind of tour calendar to a more US heavy tour calendar. So this year we'll have 3 stops in Europe and 2 stops in the US, one in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and one in New Mexico, Ruidoso, where Billy the Kid was killed.
Okay.
And then we're going to Tobago in the Caribbeans.
Okay. Tell me, when you go to a city, is you obviously bring all of your participants that are in the league. Do you get requests from folks in that city for them to be able to participate as well?
Yeah, so and this is kind of the growth of the league. Our goal is to go from 2 to 6 events in the US within 2028, and for us to be able to kind of move that volume of athletes around the world, it kind of makes sense to start building it where we have the most athletes. And this year we have such a huge interest from the athlete side in the US, so we're actually considering already in 27 starting a collegial tour. So. We are flying in the athletes. We are transitioning to a team model in the league, meaning that we're going to do knockout rounds. So you'll always have a winner and always a loser from each jump. That athletes represent a team, and that team can be sold with naming rights to a sponsor. So we're trying to kind of build an ecosystem around travel expenses and the athletes, and starting to build a professional pathway for the league.
So let's say you get some hot shot over here in Alabama. He or she is on the swim team, diving team there at Alabama, and they think they're pretty good. How would they reach out to you to see if they would even qualify to be part of your organization?
Yeah, so it's fairly easy. So we go publicly with the calendar end of April or mid end of April. Then we kind of highlight the possibility to kind of join and compete in the league. Of course, we already have the best divers kind of pre-subscribed to each competition, but we always open up for local divers because we do want this to become a local footprint where you build local heroes. That's the only way this is going to blow up locally. So you can always kind of send in a video showing that you can actually DØDs dive. And then we will see if your level is good enough to be able to join the qualifiers earlier during the day. And if you are, you're suddenly part of the world tour.
Is there a ranking system within?
Yes.
And if so, do you have a couple superstars that are the top of the top?
Yeah, so you would definitely not have heard about them because we're way too old, but they are social media superstars. So some of our athletes have, like Ryan Bean, he has like 5 million followers. You have the best woman, she's called Asbury. She has like 2.5 million followers. So they're like huge social media superstar, but within the Gen Z, Gen A kind of segment. So much younger than we are. But in short, when they come to town, they are superstars, and we have a world ranking. So you kind of collect points from each stop on a world tour. And then the last competition of the season is also the world championship.
Zach, we might need to do a little research and get some footage of both those competitors.
Yeah, definitely. I jotted their names down, and I'll follow up with Paul after our call too and try to get some of that footage for sure. I've looked up a little bit of it, preparing for this. I went to YouTube and I was looking up some DØDs diving and not for me. Let me just say that. All right. I like to ease my way into the water whenever I go out. If I'm getting into a pool or any other body of water. I'm not into the peacocking and getting down as fastly and as elegantly as I can. But really fascinated by this event. You mentioned New Mexico as a location coming up, and that's just fascinating to me because you don't think of there being many water features in New Mexico, in the American Southwest, and of course there are. There's actually a lot of I think they're called like blue holes, like natural springs in the American Southwest. I've stopped at a few in cross country travels, and I'm just curious. So far you've mentioned New Mexico, then Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Chattanooga. Have you been anywhere else in the United States, or is
Oh
this
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
We
okay?
we started in Austin, Texas. That was our first
Okay.
event in the US. And then we had the US National in Fort Lauderdale in 2024 in Florida. So we keep on testing new venues every year, but we do want kind of build a fixed calendar, and that's where we're transitioning now. Collaborating with host city on a 3 to 5 year cycle, making it much easier for the host city also to hype the event year after year, easier to make long-term sponsorship agreements, and for us to also kind of do the equal agreements with the bigger broadcasters like ESPN. So we're all about building a long-term calendar, and our goal is, just as I said, having at least 6 stops by 2028 in the US, and we want to build that kind of conference structure around it. So you're gonna have the North, you're gonna have the South, the West, the Mid, and then the East, battling it out for the World Championship at the end of the season. So we're actually in dialogue with Boston for 27 also, maybe having the U.S. National there. So exciting times ahead.
That's outstanding. Tell me a little bit about, we were talking on the phone or on the call before we jumped into things about sports ETA and these conferences. What kind of have you learned by going to these conferences and learning more about the tourism industry and the recruiting process of getting one of your events to their cities?
First of all, Don was my mentor the
Yeah.
first year at Sports CTA. He taught me everything. He said, like, bring good shoes, drink enough water. You're gonna walk so much, and you're gonna talk, have mints. So I had all the hacks from Don the first year, but putting that aside, this was totally new for us going to conference structure. I remember the first year we didn't understand anything about it. So we had 127 meetings during 3 days, me and Stine, my colleague. And we just like hard pitched. We just like we had no idea what we were doing. Just like, and then something stuck. I think it was actually after the actual speed dating process when we went to the bar, things started to resonate, and we were able to actually talk about the sport, and we're given a little bit more time. But I think that the magic thing about this sport is we're bringing the party to the pool. So you don't need to be an expert in diving, or you don't need to kind of even like swimming to kind of join it. But we are kind of the natural evolution of aquatic sports. We just put on some pyro. We just bring the music. We just bring the vibe. We bring the bar. We bring the after party. So it just feels like a magic day where kind of the whole community connects and just like see some insane action happening locally. So what we've seen during these host city conferences is that it kind of resonates really well with the US, I think, especially in smaller cities. Like being a big fish in a small place is kind of definitely our playbook today. And going to like Ruidoso, New Mexico. I hadn't heard about the place. And then you start researching it, and you're looking at the backdrop, and you kind of, oh yeah, this is going to work, making
Yeah.
each kind of super unique. So you asked about the calendar, Don. So we're starting in Trinidad Tobago in a little small fishing village in Sunset. Then we're going to Ruidoso, New Mexico, in kind of Western countryland. And then we're going to Lyon in France. And then we're going up to this Burning Man festival in Portsmouth. And then we're going to the south of Norway in this Viking village. And then we have the World Championship in Arendal. So Each of these stops feels like a story being told, and we're so good at integrating that kind of local story in the broadcast. So it kind of feels like a Drive to Survive kind of episode where you showcase everything that's unique. And I think that's maybe the secret sauce of our league. It's so much about storytelling, and what these cities needs is exactly that, attracting people by having extraordinary stories.
Zach, don't let him fool you. It didn't take them but a hot minute when they got there to ETA. This one right here is a fast study. And I did give them some of the hacks and whatnot, but I'm going to tell you what, I saw them, it was like they were seasoned pros. And then the next time I saw them, hell, it was just, hey, Don, what's going on? And boom, they were gone. And you're right. I mean, we have a speed dating and, we call them prospects and suspects, and there's a lot of prospects out there. I mean, I think ETA does an amazing job vetting out the people that they bring in. And you guys did a hell of a job. Um, and I think that what you were talking about, you bring the party when you go places. We're getting ready. This will be the first time for me to actually do a session. And it's really, I'm only probably doing 5% of the session. There's a gentleman that I worked with. He was a consultant for a music festival that we did in Tuscaloosa. And he's going to end up doing a presentation about, music festivals and whatnot. I'll tell you what, if you guys do make it to ETA, I want to introduce you to Cameron Moss because he's bringing the music. You guys are bringing the party. You could collaborate in different cities. But it's, ETA, what John David has done with that organization and Michelle Wessel and Janice Burke, the whole team over there are amazing. It's guys like you coming in from across the pond, so to speak, from Norway to come in. And again, I was really, really impressed. You were a hell of a student. It didn't take you but a hot minute.
I had a good master, that's that's for sure. But I must admit, what Don is stepping into here is super interesting because we are an emerging league and we are a young sport, and I think it's important to remember that in 5 years, Gen Z will be the most powerful consumer in the world, meaning that all the old sports and cultural kind of products are being changed and adapted to a whole new generation being born with social media in its kind of not only DNA, they're native, they don't know anything else. So for them to watch sport isn't kind of a one linear product anymore. You need to kind of find way to adapt to a new demographic and to new times. And with that, we kind of build the playbook as we go along. And I think that I'm actually going to Teams Europe in 2 weeks to speak in a panel with E1 Racing and the Zone and Aurora Media, some of the big players in the game for emerging sports, to explain exactly this. We also need to find new ways to be attractive to host cities that doesn't only have the heads and beds, because a lot of these new emerging sports, they come in with maybe 150, maximum 200 heads during the events.
Yeah.
But the reach is 20 million plus. The reach is 60 international countries going to 200 million household globally. So how do you kind of change that perspective and start looking at how you can monetize that? So we're actually going to market this year with a whole new product that we call the Host City Partnership Program, where we take a part of our most kind of premium inventory and we just give it to the host city because we know that we have the reach, we have the window, so we have the loudspeaker, and it's much easier for a local host to sell that to local partners, if that's Dunkin' Donuts or New Balance or whatever, and try to activate them, and then suddenly they can go break even the first year. So we already sold 2 host city on this package already this year. And it's a model that we think is going to blow up because the heads and beds are nice and it's coming. But while we're building this, we still have the reach. So let's monetize that together and let's build kind of a return on investment focus on the business side as well. And I think, Don, that's the secret sauce. If we manage to go break even for the host city and we can become an asset to market that city, we have a solution.
I find with the work that I do with the HBCU Athletic Conference, Our president, I mean, our commissioner is amazing what she has done in a short period of time. We're building attendance going to these events. But until we get there, we've got Urban Edge Network that does an amazing job in all of our sports televising that. And so there's a lot of reach there that we can go back to the cities and say, all right, what we may lack in the numbers and the heads and the beds, we're going to make up for it this way. Speaking of which, when we're done and when Zach gets this out there on LinkedIn and on where are we? Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube.
With the
Facebook is
numbers
for old people, Don.
with the numbers that you guys have, and you'd mentioned your two superstars, how many they have followers. I don't know. Maybe you can get the show to them so that they can push our message.
Yeah, and I think
Jack our numbers up.
Yeah,
yeah, but
please.
you're raising an important question here because uh, uh, there is a playbook here, and I think that it is also science in the making. So having reach is not a one-to-one dimension. You need to kind of find a way to still keep the credibility of the league and the sport and the editorial content that you're doing, and still find a way to commercialize parts of it.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
need to measure that stuff. And then you need to kind of show that you're going to market with something that's X% cheaper than the benchmark. And then
Right.
you have something you can offer. But it's very difficult before you actually have a minimum amount of stop, let's say six. I know that's for TV, that's the magic number, at least six stop on the league. Then you can start building a much more kind of premium TV product, and then you can start capitalize on it. But before that, it's it's hard. It's super hard,
Yeah.
just like you're saying, Don.
You mentioned one of the locations you were going to. It brought back memories. My early days as a college soccer coach, I recruited internationally, and I went down to Port of Spain, Trinidad.
Mm.
Uh, and so we were there, and we went over to Tobago as well. But funny quick story is make sure you take your passport with you. See, yours truly I took my wife with me, and I was too honest on the plane filling out the declaration, getting into the country, and they deemed me as I was working, which I was. I wasn't vacationing. Kim, my wife, was. She breezed right through and getting into the country. But for me, I didn't so much. They were holding me up. Thank God the national team coach for Trinidad was there at the airport and helped get me in. But we recruited two guys out of that country. And I'll tell you what, they were two outstanding ball players. I hadn't been back. This would have been in the 80s, early or mid 80s. But I love that country. Beautiful place. Great
Uh,
food.
I totally agree with you. I can't praise it any more than you're doing because we had such an amazing time. And like even the security guards just going into the city was just like, hey man, I know you from Instagram. And we were just like, what do you mean? You Asbjørg? I was just like, what? You recognize her from Norway? And because kind of everybody, the buzz was starting when we came to the island, and people just like, oh, the Dutch timing, the Vikings are coming. And then suddenly it became this kind of national party. I've never seen something like it. It was just like a huge carnival for 3 days. We had 10,000 people on the beach. They were
Wow.
playing us on the radio every day. I was doing morning TV and morning radio shows for 7 days. And then we met with the municipality. It was diplomatic. We did the kind of the cutting of the ribbon and all that stuff. And it was such a magic week. So, and we're actually going back on May 23rd. So can't wait.
Well, make sure that you get some roti and some callaloo when you're out
Oh,
there.
I will.
Zach?
Well, Paul, I have to say, I'm very intrigued by your organization. Really intrigued by you, man. You bring some infectious energy, without a doubt. I can see why your events are so successful because they've got you at the helm. And I really just am glad that you hopped on with us and chatted a little bit about Dodds diving, and looking forward to watching some more and catching you guys in ESPN two later this year.
Yeah, so we'll premiere on May 23rd. So,
Okay.
and if you have the chance, please come to one of our events. So, New Mexico, that's going to be in June 6th, and Portsmouth's going to be on the 4th of July. So, that's going
Oh,
to be a
wow.
huge party.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Bud, thank you so much. And I tell you what, like Zach said, we're real impressed with what you've done, especially me, because we met early through Michelle Wessel, and to see how you've just taken it up since you got here. And hopefully we'll see you. If we don't see you out there in Vegas, we'll see you in, where is
In
teams this
August.
year?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think that's Virginia Beach, maybe.
Oh, perfect. We're actually talking to
I
them.
think
Yeah.
so. Anyway,
But I remember we had a talk with Tuscaloosa. So if you talk to the guys there, that's definitely a cool location. Definitely.
okay. I'll see Robbins maybe next week. So Robbins Bonner. So I'll
Yeah.
talk to him.
Yeah. No, true pleasure, Zach and Don, and looking forward to seeing you guys at an event this summer, hopefully.
You got it.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Have
Thanks,
a nice
Paul.
weekend, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we wanted to add a little bit more to this episode. A few weeks have passed since we had first recorded those two episodes, or that episode, those two interviews. But we had some exciting news come through in the interim. We've got a couple new sponsors we'd like to welcome aboard.
Well, can't wait to talk about first the renewal, actually, with Buffalo Rock.
Yep.
Can't thank Chris Gunner and Fitzgerald Washington and the whole team over there at Buffalo Rock. As you can see, it's good to have those products, those Pepsi products out there, and Gatorade as well. And they've been loyal to me for a long time. When I first started the Sports Commission here in Tuscaloosa years and years ago, and have been with us ever since. And then I started this, and they're here again. So want to thank them and the great people that they are, and what they do locally for events in general, not just sporting events. So thank you very much to those guys for believing in us. And then we're actually going to talk on our next show. We're going to have guests on our next show from our new corporate sponsor, and that's Event Pipe. Event Pipe, like I said, we'll have them on the next show, and they're one of the big sponsors of Sports ETA. And I'll let Mike and Tim talk a little bit more about who they are and what they do. But thrilled to have them, and hopefully we'll be talking about some other new sponsors going forward. And by the way, real quick, and I know you wanted to elaborate a little bit about Mike and Fresh Junkie. I can tell you what I've seen on Paul since our show. Man, Paul is blowing up. I see him, whether it's on Facebook or I see him on LinkedIn, overseas with the e-tourism events going on. Paul, congratulations. You were definitely marketing your event.
Yeah, I think Paul and Mike both do great jobs with their respective organizations, and great chatting with those two gentlemen. And, you know, Paul, I said it on the podcast in the interview, had an infectious energy about him. I mean, just a real upbeat dude, really, really passionate about the events that he puts on, and really passionate about exploring different parts of the United States, which I thought was really cool. And then Mike, you know, he's kicking ass with those marathons, you know, across the SEC. And he mentioned that Arkansas they're hopeful that they get one up there as well. So just two really great dudes, two great, you know, industry leaders, and really excited that they were able to come aboard. And, you know, circling back, really, really excited to have both Event Pipe and Buffalo Rock moving forward. And again, Buffalo Rock, like you mentioned, they've been supportive of us from the beginning. So huge thank you to those two for coming aboard.
Well, it's good to have. I mean, of course, excuse me, Pepsi is a national brand, but Buffalo Rock is local.
Right.
So we still keep some of that local identity. That way I can take shots at local, you know, people.
Local government.
Yeah, local
officials.
government officials. And then the Event Pipe component, that's national.
Right.
And they're going to talk about themselves and what they do, and how event rights holders can get a hold of them. But so we've got a little mixture of both.
Yeah, and I think that's a great mix, and always open for more. And I know we're working on a few more in the background, behind the scenes, Don mostly, but really excited about, you know, our future here on the podcast. So.
Well, and I'd also like to mention that those folks that have ghosted me, you know, it's better to get that email to come back and say thanks, but no thanks. The ghosting part might end up having to be a show.
It might end up having to, I've got a ghosting story I could tell. Maybe when we've run our course, we can spread that one as well. So huge thanks to those guys. We'll catch you next time when we have the folks from Event Pipe on board with us.